Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the UVM Cancer Center's 27th Annual Women's Health and Cancer Conference. My name is Molly Berry, and I'm honored to serve as the Executive Director of this conference. As a medical oncologist at the University of Vermont Cancer Center, I know how special it is to bring patients, researchers, clinicians, caregivers, and community members for this day of learning. I'm thrilled you are all joining us this year as we explore our cancer theme, oncology and the environment. Before we begin, I want to extend a warm welcome to our 300 Zoom attendees. You're tuning in from over 30 states and 5 countries, and thank you all for coming. And for our in-person attendees, welcome to the University of Vermont, and we're so happy to have you here. I have just a few housekeeping details to relay. First, on the back of your name tag, you'll find the list of lectures you selected at registration, along with the room location. And it turns out mine are on there too, so I'm not going to get lost. As a quick reference, we're in the Silver Maple Ballroom, and the Sugar Maple Ballroom is on the other side of the back wall. If you signed up for an integrative therapy demo, you'll find that in the Jost Foundation room down the hall past the exhibit hall. On each side of the fireplace lounge, you'll find restrooms, and a quiet room is available down the hall if you need a place to take a break during the day. For Zoom attendees, refer to the agenda links on the website. For those who signed up to receive continuing medical education credits, you should have received an email earlier this week with directions on how to claim credit. The email will be resent to you on Monday for easy reference. If you have any questions, you can check with the CMIE team here at the registration desk. And for those of you who are virtual, you can email uvmcmie@med.uvm.edu. Today, we're also joined by over 20 exhibitors, and we intentionally built time into your schedule for you to meet with them. Exhibit booths are in the Williams family room right next door and in the fireplace lounge. Our exhibit hall will close at 3 p.m., and the shuttle to the parking garage will run continuously from the Davis Center Oval Driveway on the 3rd floor throughout the day. In addition to these resources, I want to extend a special thank you to our partners at the Osher Center for Integrative Health. Thank you for arranging today's integrative therapies, and we look forward to learning from our many Osher affiliates throughout our sessions today. And for those of you who might not be aware, we could not make this event happen without the gift of philanthropy. 2 years ago, the Patty O'Brien Women's Health and Cancer Fund was established by the Courtney and Victoria Buffum Family Foundation to endow this conference so that we can continue our program in the future. We look forward to many more years of learning together thanks to the generosity of our donors. Now, it's my honor to introduce our first speaker, Lisa Wise, who will kick off today's conference with her session, Embracing the Environment of Support. Lisa was born into a cancer cluster family where she learned how to navigate palliative care. Those experiences shaped her 25-year career as a family and patient-centered healthcare specialist, passionately bringing patient voice from disempowering hospital beds to policymaking boardrooms. Currently serving as Vice Chair of Information and Support for the International Waldenstrom Macroglobulinemia Foundation, Lisa was also founding chair of the Family Advisory Council at Lucile Packard Children's Hospital and Stanford University, where she participated in groundbreaking patient safety initiatives, consulted to the American Academy of Pediatrics, and provided the voice of the family on numerous projects. In 2010, Lisa was diagnosed with Waldenstrom macroglobulinemia, a rare, incurable, yet treatable non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. As a third-generation lymphoma patient, she draws upon her personal experience as both caregiver and patient to coordinate cancer support groups nationwide, as well as offering support, education, and information to international members of the blood cancer community. Lisa has a Bachelor of Education from McGill University and a Master's in Education from Harvard University. The proud mom of 26-year-old fraternal twin sons working on Capitol Hill, one of whom has Cruzon syndrome and hydrocephalus, their family has learned how to manage life with multiple complex chronic conditions. She resides with her husband of 33 years in their empty nest near Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Lisa, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for that warm introduction. Oh my gosh, and above all else, thank you for having the coolest glasses in the room. By far. So, true confession here. There we go. It took me 4 whole years after being diagnosed with cancer to decide to go to my very first cancer support group. That meeting was in 2014. I arrived in the parking lot a few minutes early, and there was only one problem. I couldn't get out of the car. I was stuck frozen in the driver's seat. To understand why I was stuck there, we have to back up a beat, okay? So I was first diagnosed on a rainy Wednesday afternoon in California, and now I'm going to share in excruciating detail my horrifying cancer journey so that we can all agree that cancer was the very best thing that happened to me, and I would never trade it for the world. Just kidding. That is not going to happen here today, people. If anyone was hoping to hear a motivational speech from a sad cancer girl, this is going to be a colossal disappointment. Wait, did somebody just leave? Come back, I promised laughs. Don't go anywhere, people. Hi, friends. I'm Lisa Wise, Vice Chair of Information and Support at the Waldenstrom Macroglobulinemia Foundation, where I oversee 60 worldwide cancer support groups for patients and caregivers. And I am also a freelance writer focusing on health. And I'd like to give a shout out of gratitude to Kim Feeney, who read me in the Washington Post and invited me to come here to speak with you today. I'm from Montreal, so Vermont feels a little bit like home. It's so nice to be back. And thank you for keeping Vermont so beautiful and perfect. And dare I say, Vermonty. I love it. My favorite job title in the whole world is being mom to my twin boys, who now live and work on Capitol Hill. And I wanted to hear a little bit about who's in the room. So now that you've gotten to know me, can we get to know you just a wee bit? Would you like to raise a hand if you're a cancer patient? I would just love to know, no HIPAA involved, but if you're a cancer patient like me, be loud and proud. Look at all the content experts who are sitting here. Hope is in the room. Thank you, folks. And where are my cancer support persons, care partners, caregivers, family members, friends? Oh my gosh, thank you, angel alert. We cannot do this without you. Thank you, I see you, I appreciate you being here today. And last but certainly not least, our healthcare providers. Can I see like a hero alert? Oh, there they are. Oh, there's a whole lot of them. Thank you for the work of your hands and your heart. So grateful. And enough about you, let's get back to me. But you are all fascinating. I am a 3rd-generation blood cancer patient. Lymphoma leaps through my bloodline. When I wrote that line in my first article for the Washington Post, my editor emailed me this. I don't get it. She didn't understand what I meant. What is a 3rd-generation? So, I just realized I don't have to lean in here because I'm mic'd. Oh my God! Oh my God, that's so much better freedom. Did you see what I was doing? I was leaning into the mic. So when she said, I don't get it, I said, I know, right? It's crazy. I don't get it either. And that confused her more because she just didn't understand the words. But what I've been trying to understand for my whole life is my sorry-ass genetics. So there was a little bit of a disconnect there. Here's a shortcut, a visual of what a cancer cluster looks like in all its glory. Hi, guys. Familia. So this is what 3rd-generation lymphoma looks like. So all the folks here on my family tree had cancer. Notice the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I promise we're not on this slide for a really long time, so I gotta go through every story. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma on my mother's side, you can see my grandfather Sam passed away at 61, my mom 59, and then me, same 3rd-generation blood cancer. So there's a lot of us, right? You can see that I am cancer royalty. Generations of family members have died from this heartless disease. They were strong, passionate, determined people who faced their reality while also enjoying a really good laugh. None of them referred to cancer as a gift. None of them needed illness to appreciate a glorious sunset. It was never, ever the best thing that ever happened to them because we all knew that it sucked, bottom line. Navigating palliative care with 3 immediate family members before turning 50 dawned me a connoisseur of loss. But nothing prepared me For my own incurable diagnosis at age 44, always the noble caregiver, I was now recast the desperate patient. And watching cancer's cruelest tricks had taught me volumes because I needed every one of those lessons in order to now survive myself. My family taught me how to fight disease fiercely, without losing hope, how to say goodbye with grace when it was time to let go, and the healing power of laughter, even in the face of fatal setbacks. Holding the hand of each loved one as they passed affirmed that love is all there is, not only in your first and last breath, but in every single breath in between. Though they were all with me in spirit, I never felt more alone than sitting on that sterile exam table wearing an undignified hospital gown. Disease loves to strip you down until you're cold and bare in an antiseptic room, so I decided to fight back. Clinging fiercely to independence and identity, I resisted the indignity of illness. Whenever possible, I declined that nasty hospital gown. I hopped into MRIs wearing my own metal flea athleisure. I swaggered into the infusion center wearing shiny cowboy boots. I knew the power of a good outfit, but it certainly had its limits. During one appointment, I slipped this souvenir into my bag, and I've taken it with me ever since. And I am wondering if anybody can guess what this is. I carry it with me. Right, it looks like a measuring tape, right? It does look like a short measuring tape. No, it's plastic. Oh, I should have told you that. It's a high quality. It's a little bit of plastic. I'll give you a hint, okay? It's a critical part of hospital gown couture. It is a belt. It's actually a hospital belt. This belt is meant to wrap around a half-assed gown, and I carry it to remind me that no hospital gown and no illness can strip me of my dignity. When I started working with those who share my same diagnosis, I began carrying it in my work bag with me every day to remind me that we are all fragile, we are all vulnerable and mortal, but dignity and compassion are our birthright. So I became a cancer pro, learning every cancer hack in the book. How to fire your oncologist with flair. Apologies. Sorry. How to survive Dante's 10th circle of hell, which is meal trains, if anybody has been in the lasagna spinning circle of endless. How to endure chemotherapy-induced menopause like you're riding through a cheap drive-through car wash that doesn't end. And how to manage a mother-in-law who says that maybe going out with wet hair might have just caused your... Can't even say it, won't even go there, you get the idea. So I knew how to do a lot, right? But what I didn't know how to do was ask for help, let alone graciously receive it. All my knowledge of IV pumps and anti-nausea tricks and even how to draw on eyebrows did not help one whit when it came to asking for support. Friends and family were generous. I'll drive you to the hospital. I'll come with you to chemo. I'll bring you lunch. I couldn't fathom a chemo sidekick. I only knew how to walk this path alone. So going in for treatment, I would always pass these other infusion rooms where they were having like chemo parties. They were filled to the max with friends, and like there was almost balloons and things were happening in those rooms. And I would just close my own little door and turn off the lights and pull up that warm blanket that the nurse angels brought me and just close my eyes to the world, to turn inside. Nope, no help, thanks. I am fine on my own. But I was not, because no one really is always okay on their own. I just didn't know how to fly my plane any other way than as a solo pilot. I knew firsthand the heartache of being a caregiver, which entailed sitting in those uncomfortable chairs, listening to each pling of that IV drip drop, eating crappy cafeteria lunches, fighting for the stupid parking space, and helplessly bearing witness to illness. I couldn't put that burden on anyone else. I had to go through it alone because cancer isn't the only thing running through my veins. Powerful pride, independence, and a smidge of stubbornness packs my DNA, which makes it really tough to say these words out loud. I can't do this alone. I need help. I'm scared. Cancer is too heavy to carry. So now you understand why I was sitting in that parking lot. Minutes before that support group meeting started, unable to get out. A huge part of me wanted to just turn back and drive home to safety and forget the whole plot. To ease my fears, I promised myself aloud, if you hate it, you never have to go back. But it came out a little bit too cheerleader-ish for me. So I thought of all the negotiations over the years that I'd had with my little kids, right? The first day of anything is always scary. Kindergarten, soccer, the whatever, sleepaway camp. Beginnings are always intimidating. What if the other kids were mean, meaning the other patients? What if the teacher didn't like me, meaning the support group leader, right? What if hearing all their stories made me sad or made me lose hope? What if I didn't want the whole cancer patient label right up in my grill? So I gripped the steering wheel even tighter. I affirmed my resolve. I wasn't going anywhere. It was too scary. But I was in that parking lot for a real reason. Diagnosed in 2010, I'd enjoyed 4 years of good living with cancer in a laid-back, casual watch-and-wait phase. But my numbers were steadily climbing and my symptoms were increasing. And I had officially shifted into what we call the watch-and-worry stage. There was no denying disease progression. My husband had bought me a lazy boy for my birthday because of my napping fixation. And my kids were just about to start high school, and they were going to need me in fighting shape for the whole college chaos. So my beloved oncologist had begun reviewing treatment options, and I knew I needed to find some cancer community for support. So I reached out to the IWMF, International Waldenstrom Macroglobulinemia Foundation, which is not a typo, but definitely a mouthful. And I was looking for support for my rare, literally 1 in a million cancer. They gave me the name of my local support group and also a warm line to call to speak with a fellow patient who'd been down the path. And then they sent me a welcome kit, so I felt like I was part of the family. And I emailed the support group leader to get on the list because I needed trustworthy friends on the cancer playground who could show me around the jungle gym and tell me that that slide wasn't really as big and scary as it looked. There were so many things that I didn't know and needed to understand, like how do you even read those blood test results? What do they mean, those numbers? And does the fatigue ever get better? What are tips or hacks for surviving chemotherapy? And probably worst of all, would my kids be okay after witnessing all of this? What happens to a decades-old marriage post-treatment? What does that look like? And will I ever be the same woman again? I wanted to know if I could still play despite having the shadow of cancer hanging over my shoulder forever. Could I enjoy life fully after diagnosis? So I had tons of questions, but I really didn't know what it would be like to ask a room full of total strangers. How do you bare your soul that way? Sitting in my car, I came up with the perfect solution. I would set my phone alarm to ring exactly 17 minutes after the support group began. And I carefully chose a ringtone that sounded like an old-timey phone call coming through. Sneaky, right? My plan, here it was. When the alarm went off, I would make this like big deal about rummaging through my bag. Then I'd pull out the phone and like jump up abruptly and be like, oh, sorry, apologize. I really need to take this important call outside. And then I would run like the wind and hop in my car and hightail it out of cancer support group hell. And I would never have to see those sorry, sad sacks again. That was my plan. My flawless plan was airtight, so I gathered up my courage. I carefully set the right phone alarm, and I left my car. And before walking in the front door, I practiced being like all smiles and sweetness because I was ready and willing to meet whatever awaited me in the room for 17 minutes max. When I walked in, the strangest thing in the world happened. I fell in love. The support group leader was warm and welcoming. The group members were kind and friendly, ushering me over to the snack table. And best of all, I met a fellow newbie walking in the door who became my BFF. And we grabbed seats next to each other because we were both the new kids on the block and nervous about that. When a laid-back guy in a Hawaiian shirt moseyed over with the warmest welcome and turned out to be the foundation's president, I knew that this was off to a good start. Quite shockingly, that meeting was uplifting. Uplifting. The people were impressively well-informed about their cancer and thoughtful about their disease management. The leader was empathic and compassionate, and somehow she hit that perfect balance for group sharing in a healthy but boundaried way. And most surprisingly, the snacks were delicious. They might not have had me at hello, but the ginger molasses cookies, I remember to this day, that's how they had me at those. I admired their wicked senses of humor, knew how to laugh and have fun. No one told me that people in cancer support groups laugh. No one told me that you could have fun also. I feel like that should be in the brochure, right? Who knew? I had plenty of preconceived notions about what a support group was supposed to be, but I had no idea exactly what it was. So now I'm going to share with you 5 important things I've learned about support groups in the decades since that transformative meeting, since I've been leading and helped coordinating them worldwide. So, number 1, ready? Support groups are not only for Debbie Downers. Many people are hesitant to step into a support group because they fear the pity party or the sense of hopelessness. They don't want to get terrified listening to a whole bunch of worst-case scenarios, and they're uncomfortable about sharing their deepest darkest with strangers. That's pretty awkward sometimes, right? Lots of time people say, what if people cry? What if there are long, uncomfortable silences? What if one person dominates? What if I just like to listen? I don't like to share. Those are all real, right? And the truth is, when patients gather to support each other and share their experiences, we bring all that and so much more. And all of those patients in the room who have been to a support group know what I'm talking about. Conversations cover the entire spectrum, every topic and every emotion. Because dipping our toes in the pool of grief and daring to touch pain will not suck us in indefinitely. Only running away from those feelings will make them chase us for life. And that's the most ironic thing. Only facing our darkest fears sheds light. Hello? Okay, you did it. Oh my God, she did it. But why did you wait so long? We're halfway, we're wrapping. Because this could have been terrible at 12 minutes in, and I would have understood of everybody. I would have understood. Run like the wind, that crazy, annoying woman. It's too early for me. I know, you need so many more cups of coffee before me. So at support groups, people laugh and people cry. There is joy and there is pain. It is real and it is honest. But many people report feeling relief to finally be in a place where you do not have to explain. You don't have to apologize. You don't have to make excuses or cover up or pretend to feel any better than you are on those days that you feel like crap. And you don't have to hide your fear because you're in your cancer home with your cancer family. Sometimes we feel like living our life to the fullest, and other times it's hard to just get out of bed. Social media doesn't talk enough about that. Striving to balance life with illness is a juggling act. Sharing this wild ride with people who understand can help you feel more connected, uplifted, and less alone. And it helps when we can share with each other along the cancer path, because vulnerability loves company. And I love Brené Brown. Now, are you ready for the second thing I learned about support groups? Support groups are not only for the very sick. Cancer is not a competitive sport. I get a lot of people confessing one of two things to me. Either I'm not sick enough for a support group because my cancer isn't that bad, or else they say, I am far too sick for a support group because my nightmare story will scare the bagoogies out of everybody else in that room. Usually nobody says, hey, it's usually one of the two. I have to reassure them, there's no sweet spot here, people. Cancer is not a competition, and support groups are not some kind of twisted, extreme sport. People attend meetings from across the entire disease spectrum. Newly diagnosed sit beside people who've had the disease for 20 years. Some have had tons of treatment. Some have been on clinical trials. Some have never been on any treatment yet. Every patient brings their own unique flavor and perspective, and together we share knowledge, experience, and best of all, hope. Many of us experience an avalanche of feelings over the course of our disease, sometimes even in the same day. If you're me, sometimes even in the same moment. We move in and out, up and down, from I totally got this to I'm totally screwed. Stepping into my first support group, I dreaded entering a scary-looking planet cancer. You know, that terms of endearment kind of Hollywood cancer where everybody is screaming in hallways? But instead, many people looked like regular, run-of-the-mill folks, and I breathed a sigh of relief. I might not lose my identity entirely to this disease. Maybe I could be a cancer patient and also keep being me. Number 3, support groups are not all created equal. When you think about a support group, you may imagine a circle of uncomfortable metal folding chairs, really bad coffee, and nervous energy. But support groups come in every shape and size. With 60 support groups that I oversee internationally, there is one for everyone because each one has its own vibe. I oversee groups that only want world-class rock star experts at their formal meetings. And others meet informally, over potlucks with sharing and caring circles, totally different jam. There's something for everyone. And you can learn how to be your own best advocate, armed with research, data, and spreadsheets from some conversations. But other conversations help you learn how to be your own balanced best friend with wellness tips, mindfulness, and emotional support. So you can have it all, but you have to work to find the right group, and you can't give up because it's kind of like dating, and you have to kiss a couple of frogs or support groups before you find the one that's for you. Cancer support takes all kinds of forms and looks different, so I thought I would like to share with you how I shaped my own network. I started writing in a narrative medicine writing group, and that is how I became a freelance writer. So without cancer, I wouldn't have started this gig in midlife, this crazy thing that I did. I started 4 years ago, and now it's my passion, it's my fire. I started weekly walk and talk check-in phone calls if somebody wanted to talk with me or if I needed to talk with them for support. I made myself put on my sneakers and walk around the block, and that became my little exercise program. And then Zoom support group meetings that are now starting to meet in person are really helpful as well. Support groups are not a sign of weakness. Participating in a support group is a sign of strength. A community of camaraderie is built by asking each other questions, learning from each other's wisdom, turning toward one another with challenges, celebrating together in times and joy, and every person offers something to make the group stronger. Now, you know they're not going to let me back in Philly unless I said that I had a mandatory Rocky slide. So when the authorities show up, you're all going to vouch for me, okay? Because, again, I'm from Montreal. Philly has a thing about Rocky. I can't know what. I have a thing about Brené Brown. I do love her. Asking for help is a power move. I love that. So, true confession. Asking for help is still not easy for me. I'm working on it, but I am making progress. Now I can ask my bestie to pick me up from a bone marrow biopsy. And I can call a buddy to process tough hospital days or tough news. And when I joined a clinical trial, I made a real friend take me out to a bar for cheers, which I call progress. All in the name of support, people, taking one for the team. So remember this, back in that first support group meeting, when exactly 17 minutes had passed, my phone rang from the bottom of the purse. I jumped up in my chair, annoyed at the unwanted interruption. I was so involved in the group sharing and so engrossed in that conversation that I had totally forgotten about my escape plan. I quickly silenced the ringer and I ignored my faux phone call, and I apologized to everyone in the group who were now my BFFs on Planet Cancer. And I explained that that caller would have to wait because this conversation was far more important. I chose to stay in the room, be present, participate as a support group member, and show up for others the way I hoped that they would one day show up for me. And since that day in 2014, I have been addicted. I have attended, led, and I coordinated hundreds and hundreds of support groups nationwide for many, many thousands of patients and caregivers with my very, very rare cancer. But I always make a point before every single meeting to turn off my cell phone because this conversation is far more important and no escape hatch is needed when you're in your cancer home. Here's my cancer support group. Every year we have an annual Chili in Philly, which is the most popular event of the year. Chili in Philly packs the house. I think we sometimes get like 65. And basically we do it around Thanksgiving. And I just make up we usually meet in a medical center, but this is the one meeting a year we meet in a home and make up a big batch of homemade vegan chili and cornbread. And we sit around a fire and we literally just talk about kind of hopes and dreams. You know, what worked in the past year, what we're hoping for in the next year. And somebody has a timer. Because with 65 people, you need to keep it at 2 to 3 minutes a person. And we kind of just go around, see each other, hear each other, and kind of say, look at us, another year, another Chili in Philly, see you next year. Are there any West Wing fans out there? Oh God, thank God. Okay, my people are so glad. Well, you know my kids work on Capitol Hill, so you know what I was making them watch when they were 7 years old, which is cruel and unusual punishment for any child and should not be allowed. Leo McGarry tells Josh this story. You might remember it. A man is stuck in a hole. A healthcare team walks by and the man calls out, "Can you help me?" And the team throws a prescription in the hole. Next, a preacher walks by and the man calls out, "Can you help me?" And the preacher throws a prayer in the hole. Finally, the man's friend walks by and the man calls out, "Can you help me?" And the friend jumps into the hole. The man says, "What did you do that for? Now we're both stuck in this stupid hole." And he says, "But I've been here before and I know the way out." I often speak with newly diagnosed patients. And recently, Paul called me and reached out. And at the end of our long call, where we talked about the shock of his diagnosis and the treatment decisions that lay ahead of him, and what it was like to share with his family who were spinning from hearing the C word, he thanked me for talking with him. I told him it was my honor to be with him at that moment in his disease experience, and I was inspired by his resilience. I really meant it. And he said, no, you don't get it. You're the very first person I have ever spoken with who has this same rare diagnosis. And the hardest part of all of this has been the isolation. So just hearing your voice gave me a boost of hope. And last Sunday, our support group met in Philly and had a walk for Waldenstrom at a local park where we just strolled through the park. And Paul got to meet 25 patients and caregivers, all facing the exact same cancer that he has. And he is no longer alone because he found his way out of the hole. Speaking of knowing the way out, to conclude, and then we'll do questions, which is my favorite part, I want to share how attending a support group literally changed not just my cancer experience, but my life. I am patient number 1. At a support group, I met Marcia, who is the queen of clinical trials. Marcia has gone through 8 clinical trials in 25 years with Waldenstrom. I say that she has hopped from trial to trial like it was a lily pad, a lifeline of lily pads for 25 years. She gave me the knowledge that trials were an option and the courage to enroll in one. Living with my incurable but treatable cancer for the past 14 years, I had chemotherapy and immunotherapy in 2018, and they gave me a few good years, but then my disease advanced aggressively, and it was time for more treatment. The first time around, I wanted the tried and true drugs, the ones that had data and research that we knew were absolutely guaranteed. But this time around, the cowgirl in me came out, and I wanted to go rogue with this disease. I begged for the hottest, newest, sexiest drugs, fresh off the research lab conveyor belt. Determined to rewrite my family's legacy, I put cancer on trial and volunteered to be the first subject in an experimental clinical drug trial. So I'm patient number 1, the first person to volunteer for that. I told them I would only do it if I could be the first. Thank you, whoever got it. Every day I now swallow 2 never-before combined medication. And when the trial ends in 1 year from now, all of the drugs will be abruptly stopped, and I'll be closely monitored to assess cancer's next move. So that's when the fun is really going to start. I've been having a superbly phenomenal response with this drug, with these 2 drugs, and they've given me my life back. So I went from napping all the time to hiking all the time, and from being exhausted in every single negotiation of the battery. How much do I have left in this day? How many, if I go grocery shopping, I can't cook for dinner. If I do this work meeting, then I won't be able to have energy to meet a friend. Then to having more energy that now my kids say, enough, Mom, it's time to go to bed, stop texting me at 1 in the morning, it's annoying. The research goal for them is to identify impactful, time-limited treatments that do not need to be taken forever. That's the goal. My personal goal is to catch a glimpse of forever. This is my mom, Maxine, dancing with her father, Sam, at her wedding in 1958. Sam died 1 year later at age 61. My mom died before she turned 60. So I'm rewriting the end of our family's story for me and for my twin sons and for their future children. So every one of you will be invited to my 60th birthday blowout bash celebrating life. In fact, if you reach under your seats right now, you will all find a party invitation. I am just kidding. This is not Oprah. What were you thinking? Some people were leaning. You get an invite, and you get an invite, and you get an invite. 3 thank yous to wrap up. Thank you to all of you for helping cancer patients and their caregivers find the right network of strong support to meet their specific needs in the right time and place in their cancer experience. Thank you for helping you do that. Thank you for remembering to take the most precious care of your own precious selves. As you care so generously for others, remember to find healthy ways to refuel. That is a non-negotiable act of self-compassion, so promise me that you'll do it. And if you're a cancer patient in the room, thank you for fighting the good fight alongside with me. It's a joy to be in the room with you, because this is a space for hope. And I'm so grateful, I hope you'll come up and chat with me afterwards, to be able to connect with you all. And I want to thank you wholeheartedly to listening to my story, and I hope to see you later on at my session about how to facilitate support groups. We're going to roll up our sleeves and do a real toolkit, nuts and bolts, how to do this. And now questions are my absolute favorite part, so I hope you'll indulge, and don't be shy, because clearly I'm not, right? Thank you so much. I'm wait, because I'm a teacher at heart, so silence is very comfortable. Oh, I'm so glad. Bless you.
Oh,
Excuse me.
Gracefully leave it.
The phone thing works.
The phone, I asked, how do you gracefully leave a support group?
Yeah, the phone thing works. So there's a couple.
I mean, if you've been involved for a little while.
Right, exactly. Now, as a leader or as a participant? Yeah, so that's a really great question, and I would absolutely, I really like going offline and doing one-on-ones. So that leader might be feeling that, like if you're feeling it, chances are there's a lot of people who might be feeling what you're feeling. So talking one-on-one with that support group leader, or making a bestie and seeing if somebody else is sharing that iggy feeling, because whenever you get that iggy feeling in life, this is what I was recently told by a good friend, and it kind of changed everything. Whenever you have that iggy feeling, it means there's a need that's not being met. So every time you get that unsettled, fraught thing in your stomach that just tells you, say, what need is not being met? So when you say it's not going well for you, get granular. Is it that there's one person dominating? Is it that people are surface level, nobody's going deep enough for you? Is it that they go too deep too fast and you're like, whoa, can we take a step back? Yeah, I just wanted to, come for a potluck. So, you want to think about what it is you need, see if anybody else with you is feeling that same thing, and then always talking one-on-one offline. It's really hard to redirect a group without the help of friends. You don't want to be a lone voice going, I think, because it makes it a little bit hard. You want a bit of a way, like a group consensus, I think. Because sometimes, and this has happened, it's not your group, and you move on to the next frog. And there's no guilt, shame. We don't have to fix everybody. We don't have to save the world. We don't have to make that the best support group. That might just be the support group over there that will continue doing its mediocrity, whatever, or for you, not meeting that need. But finding the one that does, or saying that maybe is a formal group that wants to meet with rock star presenters and sit in an auditorium and listen and not share. Anybody up for getting together for something a little more casual or laid back? Anybody interested in? And then you can kind of create that as a satellite offshoot with permission from the support group leader. Does that help? It's like a little bit of navigating and finagling, we can talk more about that too if you like. One of my favorite topics. There we go. Hi, friend.
Hi, so I've been a primary care provider for 3 years, and I was just wondering, in the last 6 months, I've had to deliver, tell someone it looks like you might have cancer, or the scan shows, and we're gonna send you to oncology, whatever. Is there anything that your primary care did right, or that you wish that they did? Because sometimes I feel like I send them off on the journey and then they're kind of lost to me, and maybe that's okay because they're getting the care they need with oncology. But like, I've checked in with several patients like, hey, I'm here for you if you want to come in and just need a support system. I've done that several times, but what else could a primary care do to support you in your journey, or what did your primary do right?
First of all, thank you, because I want to give you a standing, right? Oh my God. Be a little verklempt, so feeling like I might cry, because you're going above and beyond. You know that, right? You have to know that about yourself. Own it, friend. Own that. No, when you're fabulous, be fab. Come on. You're asking all the right questions. So I was diagnosed when I was in a parked car in a Trader Joe's parking lot, like 5 o'clock rush hour. Everybody's getting dinner and walking out with their eggplant wraps, and I was mini avocados, whatever this is. And I was listening to this news from a doctor who she'd done a bone marrow biopsy. I'd met her once. And they're like, I think it's cancer. We need to send you to another doctor. And there's a lot of things that could have gone better in that moment. But what you're describing would be my dream moment, is that after someone path ahead of you, I'm not going to, there are people are going to be coming in to help you with that path, but I'm not going to be leaving you. And you can come back to as a resource. Sometimes when I have like multiple teams involved, just holding, like being the spoke of the wheel gets over, it's like the shoulders hurt. You can't carry it all. And you can sometimes be a really good sounding board on how do we hold coordination? How does a patient have to advocate? How do they go to national organizations and find the kinds of support, the right kinds of information? Just almost like that really helpful navigating concierge support person to be. I'm curious, do people come back to you when you offer that support? Do they take you up on it?
I think the first person that I ever told had cancer. She had stage 4 lung cancer, and the only sign that she had was fatigue. And she had just lost her husband, just had pancreatitis, and her dog had just died. Oh. And she was also cleaning out like her husband's hoarding garages, and just told me she felt tired. And I just said, I saw these ER scans. This doesn't quite look right. Let's just check in. 6 months later, she had every scan under the sun. So she was the first person I ever told, and she was 60 something, and I checked in on her, and I had my MA check in on her multiple times, and she did come back several times. We did an advanced directive together, and she was like on the fence of getting treatment or not, and she came to me, asked me multiple times, what do you think I should do? Oh, wow. And she also was struggling with a son who just got back from tour duty and was having a lot of troubles and she said, I'm worried for him. What should I do for him? Because he just lost his dad, so now he might lose his mom. And so she ended up going the treatment route after meeting with oncologists, and I got a good understanding of like the options she got, and surprisingly she got I was so surprised how well she was doing 2 years later. Wow. And she's like, wow. Like it was really eye-opening, I think, to do the advanced directive with her and just to be like, it was my first time.
Well, you had baptism by fire, though. I mean, your first time, clearly this was someone who had a full plate, and what you did is said, come, let me take some of that and hold that with you. I don't know that there's anything more powerful than you can do than ask the question, what do you need? And then stay in the room long enough to actually hear the answer instead of asking it with the hand on the door 11 seconds. So wrap it up, no questions, we're done, let's go. So thank you for holding that space.
Yeah, that's actually one of my biggest pet peeves is don't ask, if you don't want questions, don't ask, because that's absolutely so rude to me. And I had that same thing when I broke my leg in January, and I had orthopedist come in at 8 o'clock in the morning and was in such a rush. Right. And do you have any questions? I'm like, why are you so rushed right now? I'm your first
so
patient.
Relatable, right?
And so I try not to do that.
Cool. Anybody else? Thank you. I really appreciate you sharing it. That was ideal. Way in the corner, yay, red shirt, love the shirt. Love that shirt.
Figured I might as well stand out.
I love that about you already.
Yeah, so as someone who's part of we'll call it a clinical care team.
Wait, can you do a little bit more because I'm
a little higher? There we go.
Awesome,
Hi.
Thank you.
Yeah, so as someone who's part of we'll call it a clinical care team, yes. Working with multiple people at one time doing exercise programs.
Oh, cool.
At whatever stage of cancer that they're in. Ooh. What would you say is the best way or most appropriate way when dealing with multiple people, trying to make them all feel like that they're being supported, that we're there if they want to vent at some point or they just need support through this journey, to make them feel like we're there for them and to be able to provide said support at whatever, if it's through exercise or just whatever is happening in their life in that moment, to try to somehow find the time and space to be able to do that appropriately.
I love that question. Oh my God, Vermont's the best. That is a beautiful thing that you're doing. Thank you for doing what you're doing. That is incredible.
Thank you.
Really. the IWF just started a wellness program. So we do online chair yoga, nidra, sound meditation. We're trying to do it all. And the person who teaches it, her father has Waldenstrom, so she has a personal connection. So let's say she does the chair yoga for a certain amount of time, and it's all on Zoom. And then they do a sharing circle at the end. And I was like, at the end of chair yoga? Isn't that when you kind of go have a yogurt, you know? And she's like, no, that's when we say, how has your week been? And everybody's kind of moved their body, had that moment, kind of come to a meditative end at the end. Is that what you're talking about, a group space that is moving together, that is exercising together? I want to be sure I understand.
Yeah, because we do like, it's called Steps to Wellness.
Yeah.
And so like whatever stage of cancer they're in, and like also if they're doing like prehab, so like before surgery, to help them with recovery for after.
Yeah, I don't know if you might feel comfortable doing that as a group, asking people how they're doing, or doing little check-ins, or even carving out and saying, if you want to come 10 minutes before to just connect, I'll be here a little early. If you want to just have some space together, or, you know what I mean, just allowing those pockets. But it sounds like you're doing an amazing job just kind of putting out the invitation. People will come to you if they need it. You don't have to, you know, sometimes people just want to, let's say, work the body and not work that, like, you know.
Right.
They might want to go inward and do their own thing.
Yeah, because instinctively I want to be everyone's cheerleader, but I know that that doesn't always come across as positive.
Interesting. Good for you.
Yeah.
No, that's like a whole lot of self-awareness in the room. So that's pretty profound what you just said. So remember that what you want to do every time you speak is be sure that you're asking yourself, am I doing this to help them, or am I doing this to help me? Because it's so easy to get lost in what our secondary gain is for doing the work that we choose to work. And I have to keep myself in check and think about that every day. So why do we do what we do? And whenever I'm talking with a patient, I wait a moment, and I'll be talking about this afternoon, about how you make it about the other, which is not easy. Like, because when I go in the pool and I do my 30 minutes, my laps, humble brag, I don't want to talk to anybody. If you were to be like, oh, aren't you the cancer patient? I'd be like, I like power through you with my lap. Like, do not do that. That's not the time and place. Get out of my pool. And I'm at the Y.
Right.
So I hope that helps, and I look forward to talking with you more.
Yes, thank you.
5 more minutes. Oh, and we have a question over here. Hi. Sorry, Mike, were you going somewhere else?
Okay. So my question is this, it's twofold. How in the world did you manage all your insurance with all the changes with insurance and treatments and all that? And how did you get connected to clinical trials? I know my biggest one was the Mayo Clinic, and trying to get in there is a 2.5-year wait. So
a 2.5-year wait for a clinical trial?
Yep.
Okay, so I want to answer the clinical trial first, and then we'll go to the because the clinical trial is a really good question. So I would never have done a clinical trial the first time around. Okay, I was not that. Let's do tried and true. The second time around, when I saw myself getting sicker, and I knew where we were going, and I was seeing friends of mine building resistance to the drugs that were currently available, and we only have 2 FDA-approved drugs for my type of cancer, and I was seeing people build resistance, and once you build resistance to it, unfortunately, the whole family of drugs is no longer available, and you have to get super creative. So we only have a few silver bullets for my type of cancer. And I knew that time was against me, because if I used up all my silver bullets too quickly, I wouldn't have more options. And I wanted to prolong that. So I was listening because I volunteer for the IWMF. I volunteered when I was doing, because I was hearing what people were talking about in support group meetings and in lifeline calls, that there were these drugs, new drugs coming down that were late generation BTK inhibitors for those. And I was like, get me some of those. But they were not yet approved to begin the actual clinical trial. And and they said to me, you can't wait for that trial to open. I faked it out. I said, can we negotiate month by month? And I like got dressed up and like put on this, and I like went in and I was like, I'm fine, you know, and I wasn't fine. I don't know that I'd do that again. It's not, I wouldn't advise that. I don't talk about that, but we're friends. And I pushed it to the limit because I wanted that drug, because I had hope. And so I advocated for that clinical trial. My doctor happened to be the principal investigator, which that's pretty lucky. So I got myself to a cancer center of excellence, which is the IWMEC recommends if you're making a treatment decision, because my cancer is so rare, you get a second opinion from an expert. And our most downloaded document is who are the physician experts in Waldenstrom. And get yourself in a chair in front of that doctor to make a treatment decision. And so that's what I did. I followed that advice. And then the clinical trial will, but now navigating clinical trials is unbelievably complex. And I hope in future work to become a part of making them more accessible, understandable, and relatable for people who are trying to get in and don't know how to begin. In terms of insurance, we've worked for universities in the past and are lucky to have had good insurance plans, but that's because we had to choose jobs based on the insurance plan, not based on what we wanted to do. That's the truth. And go through life not basing on, we could do anything. No, we could do anything as long as I had a plan that included this doctor and that covers this scan, because I was in and out of hospitals constantly, literally.
Yeah, it's been a struggle though, because it's really been combative. We're trying to get the assistance and stuff that I need. And my youngest family member was 19. And my entire family on my mother's side has all been eliminated due to cancer. My mom was 39 when she died.
I am so sorry for your
it's trying
loss.
to get people to pay attention to the fact that none of them were diagnosed properly.
Yes.
They were all misdiagnosed, including all 6 of my aunts. I have one left surviving. And none of them were diagnosed in time, so they all died to some form of cancer.
Thank you for being here today. I am so sorry that that is your story, but I love that you're rewriting it with me and that you're here. Mike, what do you think? We're wrapping up. He's given me the sign. It can only mean one thing. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here.
It was wonderful.
You're the best. I'll just put the next slide for my contact info in case.
There we go. All right. Thank you so much, Lisa. I am not sure that I can vouch for the Rocky photo because I kind of want to keep you here forever. So sorry. You'll have to have someone else say that you had the Rocky photo in, so you're allowed to go back to Philadelphia. Our next session will begin at 10:10. If you're registered for the Whole Person Integrative Health for Chronic Pain, please go to the Sugar Maple Ballroom on the other side of the back wall by the way of the Fireplace Lounge, so out that door and to the right. For in-person attendees, if you signed up for this morning's mindfulness practice, please meet your instructor in the Joss Foundation Room down the hallway on the far side of the Fireplace Lounge, so if you go down and go straight. And if you're registered for the Environmental Toxins and Cancer, you'll meet back here in the Silver Maple Ballroom. Before you leave, please clear your breakfast items and have a wonderful morning.